Okay. Ooh-wee.
Wow, what in the knick-knack?
That's it. When I've been linking up to every time I go live, and I called Zoom today. Every time I go live, it has that echo. I've never had that since yesterday it started. And then when I called today, they said, "Oh, we got to write you up a ticket and things like that." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm going live tonight." Oh well, man, we're gonna have to put it in for you. I'm like, you know what? I can't with you guys. So guys, I apologize. We're gonna go for it. I'm actually recording it and I'm gonna post it when we are done with our discussion. I'm gonna make sure everybody comes on who was on at first. If you have any friends or anything like that, you can send them the link and they can come on. So I think we're waiting for 2-3 people to come on. I appreciate y'all patience. Anybody on here do Zoom meetings? Anybody do Zoom meetings? No? You do?
Kind of for work, yeah.
Yeah. You have that problem like that?
We've never gone live while we were recording. So I think that's the only difference.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And let's get Dolores back on it. Go ahead and start and get on in there. There she is. All right, guys. So welcome. My apologies for the technical difficulties. But thank you guys for your patience. I am Joan Montreal. I am the CEO and founder of the Film Festival and Brilliant Women in Film. So we're going to be going forward and we're going to actually release this the video after we finish this discussion. Thank you guys for being here. And before we get started, we want to make sure that we all introduce ourselves so we can get familiar with who we have here. So why don't we start with Renee first? I think you're muted. There you go.
Okay, can you?
Yeah, I hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. So I said, hello, everyone. I am Renee Ambush. I am Baltimore. I am the writer and creator of Better Baltimore. And I'm excited to be here with other brilliant writers and other individuals that I can glean from. So we are going to celebrate how we are successful in what we do. And I look forward to this meeting tonight.
Yes. Okay, Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle, I gotta remember Gabrielle Union. I can get your name right. I don't want you mad with me now.
It's okay. You'd be surprised how many people mispronounce my name. I'm Gabrielle all the time. It's crazy. But hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Janelle, and I'm the writer, director, and producer of WTF What the Future. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, Dolores, you're next.
Hello, I'm Dolores Akins. I am owner of Showbiz, writer, director, acting coach. And it's great to be with you.
You're breaking up, but it'll get better, hopefully.
Uh-oh, it's breaking up.
Uh-huh. But we did hear your name. We just kind of, it went in and out. Okay. And our next panelist is Nisi Dobbins. Nisi, are you there? Oh, Nisi may be trying to get on. Nisi? Hi, Miss Yolanda. Okay, so we'll get started, guys. Nisi may be having some technical difficulties like we did. So, hey, we're merciful because of what we had. So, so now that we're here, I want to first congratulate Renee, and we want to congratulate Gabrielle. And I got it wrong again, didn't I? Can I call you? Okay. You know how you have a one set mind and you got to do it several times in order for you to get it. So that's what's happening here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to step out the way because LaMarcus is our host for today, and I want him to introduce himself. We are very excited to have him aboard today. So we always get this backlash that you guys have all women. Why you guys have you're a feminist group? No, we're not. we just cater to women, you know. So we have LaMarcus with us. Has been with us for a long time, and he's gonna stir us around in this discussion on today. Hello, LaMarcus.
Hello, ladies. How are you all doing this evening? It is a pleasure and an honor to be here at the 3rd annual Brilliant Women in Film panel. I've been supporting this organization for many, many years. I remember when it was just an idea that Joan had, that she manifested into something incredible. That has so many women that have come through the organization that are doing amazing things. And I'm excited to be here because these two projects are incredible. Renee, your documentary or docu-film was amazing. And Gabriella, what the future, we've got to get into what the future for sure. I thought it was brilliant. And of course, all the ladies of BWF that are here, I know you all, I've met you all before, incredible women in filmmaking, women in entertainment in general, from authors to, you know, writers and directors and producers and cinematographers. I mean, the multi-hyphenates are incredible in this organization. So with that being said, we want to first start off with Miss Renee, her amazing docu-film, Baltimore. Renee, please tell us what inspired this captivating piece of art that you made.
Well, I am a former worker and employee of Baltimore City Police Department. I am also a behavioral and mental health counselor. And I wanted to write a film from the aspect of we looking at the law enforcement, especially in Baltimore City, as human beings. I really believe that in order to change a thing, you have to change a thing. When we get to the core of individuals for who they are, we understand that even though they are Baltimore City police officers, they're somebody's husband, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother. And just as when we go to work and we want to return back home to our families, they also need to return back to their families. So when we see them, the law enforcers, as individuals, we'll then understand how it is that we can better service them as they service us. We don't want to be police, we want to be protected. So we have to see them as humans.
Absolutely, that is amazing. I think it's so powerful that you took that perspective when writing, you know, because when you first see the title, you think obviously that it's something surrounding the Baltimore area, you know, the high crime rates and things like that, but you don't think that you're going to take it from that perspective and making police officers human, you know, and that's kind of the biggest thing that I think so many people are trying to articulate in the world today is that, you know, these are humans, they are flawed, but yet they have so much power. They have the power to take your life at any moment if they feel threatened. And the only way they can feel threatened is because they're human. So we have to, like you said, unpack the psychology of what it is to be a cop, what it is to go home with them, you know, and a lot of them have high alcoholism rates. You know, a lot of them are into substance abuses to try to escape the things that they see every day. And sometimes those fears and those traumas that they experience manifest when they have interactions with individuals that look like us, the community of Baltimore. And it's like they've been just programmed to be afraid, you know, not to feel, but to be afraid of them. You know, they're not programmed to see human beings, right? They're programmed to solve problems. There's a problem in front of me, let me solve it. You know, that sounds like men, right, ladies, where we always want to fix everything. You know, that's an interesting perspective. So Renee, tell us about your filming process. You said that you're former law enforcement yourself. Tell us, did you have access to law enforcement facilities? How did the city of Baltimore support you in this project?
I would have to first say the city of Baltimore supported me by raising me. Okay, right from those streets. But actually, you know, the great thing about cinematography and the things that we can do in the industry, I actually filmed it in California. So
Wow.
I filmed it in California. I really wish I could have made it to my city to do so. But my city has supported me, even by naming me one of Baltimore's community leaders. And I think that that has made an amazing difference because it put me in a position to not only come from Baltimore City streets, operate on the side of being in the field of law enforcement, but also being able to hone in on my skills as a writer, as a producer, as a director, as an actress. So, I mean, I was in the film, you know, I wrote the film, I directed the film, I produced the film, and, you know, doing that awesome, like you said, being a brilliant Black woman in film, I love that we now have that opportunity to express ourselves in so many great ways by using our gifts and talents. So my city has been supporting me in a major way by opening doors to the fact that I'm now opening a nonprofit for individuals between the ages of 16 and 35 to gain employment and entrepreneurship in the arts, literary works, because I'm also a published author, bestseller. And yeah, toot.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And for them to also now kind of hone in on that gift and talent in the arts, but also meeting the barriers of the mental health, substance abuse, and the grief counseling because of Baltimore City's high crime rate, substance abuse, and you know what we go through as a city.
Absolutely. That is incredible. Incredible, incredible, incredible. Do me a favor, what is the greatest misconception about Baltimore, right? Because you have a city that is so rich in history, so rich in just different events that have happened throughout history, not just the people, right? But just the movements that have started there, the music that comes from there. What is something that we don't think about when we think about Baltimore? Because usually it's simply just the crime rates. So tell us something about your city that would shock us all, that would make us understand what it's like to actually live day to day in Baltimore, because I'm sure it's not always living in fear.
And you have hit the nail right on the head. The city is rich in culture. It is rich in talent. There are so many untold stories about overcoming. There are so many untold stories about individuals who have sacrificed themselves for the sake of the city. Not only just in law enforcement, but how many heroines that we have there, how many heroes that we have there. And like you said, the greatest misconception is what's really put forth in the media in a large way, and that is focusing on our crime. And I'm like, that's why I want to be the face that changes what Baltimore looks like. I want you to understand that, yes, we do have those things. Those things happen in our city, but I want to change the face so that we bring attention back to, just as you said, how much culture is there, how much talent is there, how much music is there. I'm really honestly, just truthfully and transparently speaking, I'm just tired of people kind of coming into Baltimore and, for lack of better terminology, raping us from what we have, and then no longer pouring back into the city and making it the city that it really started out to be. I'm like, we can even start with Baltimore being the model city with other cities that are having a face that look like only crime and negativity. I'm going to change that. Not that I want to. I'm going to change and be that face to say that Baltimore is more than just The Wire. I'm not going to say that The Wire doesn't have its place, but Baltimore is very much larger than The Wire.
Absolutely. You know, and it's interesting you mentioned The Wire, because that's also something synonymous with Baltimore, right? But I think it's interesting that a show that is rooted in crime, Black on Black violence, is what people associate with a city that has so much more history than that. It's amazing that we glorify television shows and films about the downfall in our communities, but we do nothing to uplift our communities on a regular basis. And so the fact that you're actually doing that through your organization, through your filmmaking, through your storytelling, through your public speaking, I think is incredible. And I think it's something that every filmmaker, whether it be a part of Brilliant Women in Film or a guy for that matter, needs to take heed to that. Because I think sometimes we glorify the worst parts in films and in television shows of our cities. And so what you're telling the world is there is no other representation, because if they don't see it, they don't believe it. So to the world, that nothing else exists in Baltimore but crime. And I think by telling these stories, but doing the work and the psychological work on the behind the scenes of it will be very beneficial to change the narrative about the city of Baltimore as a whole.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, honestly,
You're
for
welcome.
allowing the platform for me to even be able to speak that. Thank you.
Absolutely, Ms. Renee. Thank you for sharing your gift with us. And as we turn our attention to Miss Gabrielle, not Gabrielle Union, but Miss Miss Gabrielle, this year's film festival winner. Let's give her a round of applause for that. That is incredible. An amazing project called What the Future. Let me tell you something. I was hooked from the very beginning. I don't know if it was the 90s music. I don't know if it was the camera coming from the ceiling, like almost in every Spike Lee movie, every Spike Lee joint from back in the day. I don't know what it was, but from the moment that music hit and you saw that camera on the ceiling, you already knew you were in the 90s.
Yeah.
Ain't no question about that.
Yeah.
So tell us, Miss Gabrielle, what inspired What the Future? Because this is one of those projects that at the surface, it's you think it's just fun and engaging, right? But when you start to listen to the messaging behind what's taking place, it opens you up to a whole new world. So walk us through that, Ms. Gabrielle.
Well, there was a small film contest happening in Atlanta. And there's like a group here called the Screening Room, whom I love and adore. And every month they would have a film challenge. And so I hadn't been filming or writing anything at the time. I was doing a lot of background work and stand-in work. As you know, Atlanta is like the Hollywood of the South. And so I was just getting my feet wet into the industry, and I really wanted to explore what it meant to create something, because I had originally moved here to be an actress and I had been auditioning, but all of the sides that I received it lacked depth, a lot of stuff on television. I just feel like a lot of it is forgettable. For me, messaging is important. And so I took the opportunity to try my hand at the Screening Rooms contest for the month of October. And they literally said, it has to have a scene with a mural. There needs to be an upside down shot. There needs to be a pumpkin somewhere. Like, they were giving all of these little nuggets. And so somehow, I think around the time I actually wrote it in 2018, and I was really frustrated with the political climate. And so I wanted to write something that was interesting, that had all of the little nuggets for the contest. And I wanted it to be something that was fun. You know what I mean? And with the political climate, I just thought to myself, what would I say 10 years ago? What would Gabrielle 10 years ago say to what is happening right now? And so that was kind of like the basis of what the film became. I started thinking about the music, and I'm like, what is music right now, these days, and then, like I said, the stuff going on in the White House, that was another thing, with the president, and how he was getting away with a lot of stuff that, we won't go there, but so that was pretty much my frame of mind when I wrote the film, is what would Gabrielle 10 years ago say to what was happening right now? And, what would I do and how would I feel if I were launched into the future to see what was going on?
That is awesome. That is awesome. It's amazing how you pinpointed certain things, right? You talked about in the film, for anybody who hasn't seen it, please go watch it. I do believe Gabriella is on YouTube. It is worth the watch. From the music comparisons to the political climate to things that happen in Baltimore, Renee, with unarmed black men being murdered, police brutality and violence, police getting off in courtrooms, and them talking about the importance of voting. But one of the things that stood out is that messaging, the way you brilliantly tied all of that into something that was fun, was mysterious, was exciting, but was powerful. And the messaging was the power of voting, but the power of teaching those who came before us the importance that what you do right now does not just affect you, it affects those in the future from this point. And when you talk about the 90s, when you had wars breaking out, you had the war on drugs, you had Bill Clinton in the house with his scandal, which you alluded to in the picture, it really drove home the importance of the elders teaching the younger generation about the things you need to do. And one of the things you kept pressing was voting, understanding that your vote does matter. One of the lines in the movie was, well, Bill Clinton was the first Black president. That's the Blackest president we'll ever get, right? Because he was being glorified for not so great acts, right? Or because he played the saxophone on late night television. That was the perception. Why did you think it was important to drive that point home, the power of voting from the 90s till now?
Well, so one of the odd jobs that I had done after moving here to Georgia from Buffalo, I was a substitute teacher in a high school. And so I did that for probably about 4 years. And I really got a front seat to how our youth view the world. And we would have conversations, I wasn't one of those teachers that taught by the book. I was one of those teachers that, I understood that I taught in Clayton County. And so, a lot of my students were at a disadvantage and they weren't being taught that, that parents don't teach their kids these days, unfortunately.
Right.
And so, I would have conversations about them with their future and trying to figure out how they view the world. I'm not necessarily here to teach you what's in the book, but I'm here to talk to you about life. And so I would talk to my kids and we would talk about, stuff that was happening politically, even though that wasn't the subject I taught. And there seemed to be a real dismissiveness, a real, discouragement to their action in the world. They felt like no matter what they did, it wasn't going to make a difference. They weren't trying to watch the news. They didn't care about all of that stuff. And one of the things I tried to drive home to them was, people died for our right to vote. When you watch even some biopics that are out, Selma being one of them, you see and one of the things we have to understand is that all of the fight and the death and all of the what is the word I'm looking for, when people sacrifices that the people that came before us made, it wasn't that long ago, just because it was the pictures are in black and white. This is like a generation ago, 2 generations ago.
Absolutely.
And so it was really important. I just felt really frustrated because also it was after, Obama's 2 terms, and it was like nobody went out to vote. Like what? So we were active a couple of years ago and now we're done. So I felt very passionate about that. And I really, really wanted people to understand that, number one, your vote does matter. And number 2, you also have to think about not only the bigger elections, you have to think about your local elections, because it starts at a smaller level. The president can't do everything by himself. He needs the House and the Senate and the mayors and all of those people in between. So it just, for me, a lot of the work that I do is rooted in activism. And what I like to tell, you know, any festival or any panel that I'm on is that my work, it strives to do three things. It strives to entertain, to educate, and to energize. And that was really what I wanted to shine through when we did this film.
Absolutely. And you did exactly just that, right? You really did a beautiful job tying in that messaging because, yes, you were entertained, you were energized, and you definitely are ready to get out and go make a difference. I can tell you that much. You brought up something that I think is very powerful is that you mentioned that we're only, what, 80 years removed? Not even. Your grandmother's mother lived in a time, and a lot of them are still alive, lived in a time where she was treated like an animal.
Oh, yeah.
She was afraid to use her voice. She was afraid to go out, right? And I think a big part of that generational breakdown was accountability.
Yeah.
Because something happened from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s and then to the 2000s, where the lack of accountability at home. You talked about being a teacher. And one of the things I felt like you did in your project was teach about the disconnect between the younger generation and the older generation, right? And why is that? Because there's nobody holding anybody accountable anymore. Great grandmother is too old, and grandma is getting too old, and mama is trying to make it in this world because now it's become more on her shoulders because daddy is not there, although he should be there. The community is not there to support them. And so then you have that breakdown where you get that nonchalant attitude, just like in your film when they took the TV back to the shop and, you know, the lady said something, but they didn't catch it. And they immediately blew her off. And she had to stop them by grabbing the TV and saying what she said to just get their attention. But even after she did that, they still were not listening to her, right? And that kind of ties all in to this beautiful work of art that you did. I'm truly moved by it. Can you talk to us a little bit about what motivates you as a filmmaker, and then tie that into your casting? How did you go about casting? Because the actors were amazing.
Well, motivational wise, you know, I feel, you know, I don't work with a lot of people that look like me. And so I find myself constantly explaining things, you know, and like there's nothing wrong with teaching. There's nothing wrong with, you know, being open to those conversations. But I feel like with any of my work, I want to have that conversation, like watch it, you know, the conversation there, it's on the screen, you know, and then we can have a conversation here, you know. And so that's kind of like my mind frame when it comes. I just think about topics that people constantly ask questions about. And moreover, I want to have conversations. I want to take the conversations that Black people have with one another. And I want to put it in a platform where people of all races and of all ages can understand and get the message. Now, when it came to like casting for this, honestly, I had like a week to get into the contest. And so, like I said, when I moved down here, I pursued acting. And so a majority of my friends were actors. And so I just hit up a couple of my friends on Instagram and I was like, hey, what you doing on Saturday? You trying to film something? Let me send you the script.
Community, yes.
You know, community for sure. And, you know, we shot it at my house. So the film takes place in my house. I went to the Goodwill and the Salvation Army to pick up some old looking items. I went on Amazon to buy the old candies and stuff, you know, the lollipops and the nerds and all of that. And literally it was kind of like, you know, bring what clothes you have. You've read the script, you understand the, you know, whatever the wardrobe choices. Bring what you think is 90s, bring what you think is current. And we just we shot it in like a day, and it was one of the best days we've ever had. We started at 5, we ended the next morning at like 1 or 2. And it's funny because I was standing in for American Soul, for Kelly Price on American Soul. And I was like scouting locations because I wanted to find like a TV repair shop or some old kind of looking place. And there happened to be one up the street. So I drove up there among 10 other places that I had stopped at. And I spoke with the lady up front and I asked her, I said, hey, you know, I'm an indie filmmaker. I ain't got no money now, but I want to use your shop. And if you okay with getting a little credit, you know, I'd appreciate it. And so she happened to be the co-owner. The owner wasn't there at the time. And so we wound up shooting the film the day of. The owner was there. And she had mentioned that she was about to go home because she had to get up for work. And I did too. It turns out that she happened to be an Emmy Award winning set deck coordinator who was working on American Soul, the same show I was standing in for. And I literally went and talked to her the next day at work. It's so crazy how God works.
Wow,
like,
yes,
you know,
it
just
is.
how things will just move in your favor when you're trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, you know? So, you know, as far as casting, I will forever be loyal to my community because we came up in this together. I started in 2014. And so the DMs is where it's at. Be like, hey, how you doing?
Absolutely. That is incredible. Community is important in this industry. You know, again, huge congratulations to you and Renee for some incredible pieces of work that I hope we will one day see as feature films and more stories being told from your perspectives and your experiences and from others as well. And so before we move on to questions for any of our loved ones or friends that are in here, or just guests in general, you know, earlier in this broadcast, we were trying to hear from the multi-hyphenate, Miss Dolores Atkins. Dolores, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me
All
now?
right, yes, we can hear you better, Dolores. Go ahead.
Yes, Dolores
We want to
Atkins.
make sure we give an honorable mention to Ms. Dolores, who is doing an amazing thing, not just with Brilliant Women in Film. I know Dolores has her own acting workshop and things like that in Texas. So Dolores, do us a favor before we open it up to questions to Renee and Gabriella. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing there in Texas.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I am Dolores Atkins. And I have a community theater in Humble. I started off doing stage plays, and that's where my heart is. That's where I love, because that's where God put me first. And so, like you said, I have an acting studio where I teach actors the real basic part of acting. The parts where it's like, it's basically my clients are those who have no idea how to get into the industry. They really want to do it, they love it, but they don't know where to start. And that's where my love is at, because I had that same issue when I was trying to get into the industry. It's like everyone wants you to pay for every little thing, just for like the smallest knowledge. It's like, hey, can you just throw me something? And so that's why I do my teaching a little different. I don't just teach them, I also give them the back end part of it as well, and help them with the back end and headshots, and how do you do auditions, and how do you set up your profile, how do you build connections. And so I go through all of that with them, because I think it's so important, because it's an industry that you can't get away from if it's something that you're meant to do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and I got into film because I wanted to learn that side of it. for my own knowledge so I can teach others what people are, what the casting is looking for, what the directors look for, so I can build my own personal skills. And also, of course, be a film, maker. I want to be a filmmaker. So that's when I did Toll Road, and Brilliant Women in Film was the crew on that. And we did a great job. Everybody loves it. And I'm excited to be a part of Brilliant Women in Film. It's been some years.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has, Dolores. And again, congratulations on all of that. And Dolores, do us a favor. Tell us the name of your acting school in Texas, just in case anyone's in the area, they want to stop by, or you never know if Renee's in Texas or Gabriella. You never know. Maybe they can stop by and teach your students a little bit of something. So tell us the name of the school.
First of all, I would love it if they would come by. But it's Didi Showbiz. Is the name of is the banner, Didi Showbiz, and we are in Humble, Texas, off of 1960 and 59.
Awesome, awesome. Again, congratulations, Dolores. Many blessings and prayers to everything that you are working on and everything that's to come. Also, before we open it up to guests and questions, we just want to give a quick shout out to Miss Nisi, who is a new playwright that has just joined BWIF. Welcome, Nisi. You want to say hello to everyone? Nisi, are you there? Looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Nisi, but Nisi's an amazing playwright that's getting into. Nisi, is that you?
Yes, me. Yes, I was talking.
All right, Nisi. All right, tell us about yourself, Nisi.
My name is Nisi Dobbins. I'm a police officer. I'm a first lady. My husband is a pastor. I have a business dance school, Diva Dolls Extreme Dance and Performing Arts School. I also have a business called Break Free Ministries and Productions. And what I do with that umbrella, we have fashion shows, women empowerment conferences, and I write, direct, and I produce stage plays. I've been doing stage plays for the last 7 years, and I'm just getting to the film part of it. So I just joined the Brilliant Women in Film to learn the film movie part of it.
That is awesome. Welcome, Ms. Nisi, to the Brilliant Women in Film organization.
Yes.
Again, multi-hyphenated Black brilliant women in film. And, I think that is a beautiful thing, because this is an industry that you don't see a lot of representation for women in general, and more specifically for minority women. So we want to definitely keep giving a shout out to Brilliant Women in Film and these amazing women, Renee and Gabriella, for blazing the path forward for more women to come behind you, the youth. And with that being said, Joan, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want to open it up to questions for anybody who wants to talk to Renee or Gabriella about their amazing projects.
Okay, this has been awesome. We want to send a shout out to Yolanda and Paula of BWIF Women. The topic, hey guys. The topic, the topic.
Hey.
Y'all ready?
Yeah, we ready.
The topic was how to get your film noticed, and we know that a lot of individuals are very leery about film festivals. I, for one, was leery about it because I had some stuff starting. LaMarcus knows that. LaMarcus and I are partners as well. And we had some stuff stolen, and well, yeah, it was stolen. And so I was very leery about festivals until maybe 3 years ago, a lady had told me, she said, Marilyn Swick, she said, well, why don't you go ahead and enter Beyond the Vows in the festival? I said, no, because they're still and this and that and this and that. She said, well, the thing about it is that you already have to have your stuff, you have to be right there where you're getting ready to film it. You have to, where is that they can't take it. But did you know that when you get your work copyright, did you know that it's only for several years? It's not for eternity. So come 5, 6 years or however many years, it expires. And
wow.
It expires, and a lot of people don't know that. And so you're wondering wait, that's just like, because your film is expired. You got to go back and you got to renew it. And so getting your films renewed and noticed, actually noticed, you can start a website, you know, when you like, this is Niecy first time, so we'll be walking her through the aspects of getting her film out there. First, she'll go to the writer's room and get it done, and then we'll start moving into pre-production and then post-production. You can blog, getting your film noticed. You can engage in social media. It is so important to have a social media if you are a filmmaker. Because I, for one, and I know you guys can testify to this, that, you know, when you think people are going to actually back you because you're doing your first film and, you know, you're saying, hey, friends and family, get behind me. And they say, well, you know, I'm not really into film. I'm like, but because you love me, you can support me, right? But it doesn't work like that. So you got to build your audience. You got to know what audience that you, and I'm just giving some tips here before we get started. You got to build your audience, and you got to know who your audience is and cater to that audience, because they will support you and they will follow you. And sometimes if you kind of like write something different and stir off to what you've been writing, sometimes you'll lose that audience. So you want to be very careful, like take a poll and say, hey, I'm getting ready to go in a new direction, because they will leave you with your bags and your camera and your lights. Okay, then another thing to get your films noticed is you can actually create a trailer or a teaser. That's what we did for Beyond the Bounds. We created a trailer and we created a teaser. You can do polls, like I said, print materials. Get some postcards and let people know that your work is out there, where it is. Put your email address, make sure you do a website, because a website, you can always tell them to go to the website, go support, start a GoFundMe, start an indie film, whatever you can do it. Upload, I want to just say this, be very leery about uploading stuff to YouTube. If you're going to pitch it to investors, and if you want to get distributed, it's bittersweet. LaMarcus can help me on this, because I feel that when I uploaded my stuff to YouTube, I feel that it's out there in the open where it's that somebody can take it from you. And if they have the money, they're going to do it better than you. So it's going to look like you're not the original person that created that. You're going to look like you're seconds and you're coming behind them. LaMarcus, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can. One thing to understand about copyrights is, and this is, I think a lot of filmmakers experience this, and in the industry, we talk about it all the time. You can't copyright an idea. You can only copyright the execution of said idea, right? And so that's why you have so many movies that look similar and feel similar, but they're not done the same way, because you cannot copyright an idea. You can only copyright the execution of that idea. And so it's really, really important that when you share your content, it's content that's completed. It's content that maybe you share for a brief period of time. When you go in to pitch to investors, they want to know what your story is about. They want to see something. A lot of times in the industry now, because it's been revolutionized, they usually ask you, do you have anything to show us? To show us how you would do this, to show us that you have the people supporting you to do this. Gabriella talked about her community, where she reached out to her community to get her actors and her crew and things like that. And investors want to know who was involved, how did you do this? What are you going to do with the money? It's not just good to just say, oh, make a movie. Well, that doesn't mean anything to them, right? They're about returns. They're about usually making a profit off of what they're putting their money behind. Now, some investors will invest just to support you, but not majority of those are that way, especially as you get into bigger budgets and feature films and things of that nature. So just understanding the laws and the business of show business is so important for you to be successful in the filmmaking industry.
And the last thing would be distribution. Right now, I mean, it's hot. Short films are hot and popping right now. There are networks that will pick your short film up. I think Netflix, I'm not sure what's the name of it, but it's like a segment. It's like a segment in Netflix where they support short films. So you might want to look into that. And when you're actually reading, when you get your contract, make sure you read it thoroughly. Because the thing about it is when you turn over all your rights, when you actually try to do something with it, some of those rights are not yours. They're no longer yours until that contract is up. LaMarcus, can you elaborate on that?
Oh, absolutely, I can. And just to put something out there, short films do win Oscars. There are short films that win Oscars every single year. Before it wasn't telecasted, now they do, telecast who win short films and documentaries, Renee. As you know, Questlove won this year for Best Documentary of Summer of Soul, which I advise everyone to go check out. Brilliant piece of work. And so short films can win Oscars. And a lot of times Oscar winners that, do short films end up going on to do other feature films and feature projects because now they have that pedigree and that support. So there are film festivals that are great places for you to put your films out there, gain a following. Sundance, and that's just to name one here in Utah. That's really big, a big film festival that you can enter into to get noticed. And once you're noticed and people start talking about your project, good, bad, or indifferent, it makes a difference. Yes. It makes a difference. Yes. So people would want to watch it and go see it. And then as Joan was saying about the business side, contracts are important. Even when you're working with family and friends, it's important because Gabriella, you have an amazing project that, if a network or a streaming service wanted to pick up, it's yours. But without that protection of contracts, people will feel like they're entitled to a piece of it, right? So protect your work at all costs. And if you don't know something, ask. If you don't have any legal people around you, find one, vet them, know what their pedigree is. Again, walk into these rooms knowing your stuff, not just with your dream, not just with your hope, but knowing your stuff. Be armed, ready to go on the business side of things. Because the fact that you got in the room, that tells you everything you need to know. They want to do business with you. The question is, can you have a business conversation with them? And so just keep those things in mind.
Yeah. And I know with indie filmmakers, it's like you wear so many hats just to get it done. So you can't even be a creative. You have to deal with the business, the creative side. You have to deal with the cast. I mean, it's so many things that you have to do. It's like you have to kind of disperse that to individuals. But sometimes as an indie filmmaker, I'm not going to lie, sometimes you'd be so nervous because are you going to do it right? I mean, are you going to do it according to, are you going to meet the deadline? So there's a lot of things that comes behind that. And I'm quite sure everybody can testify. They've probably been a director, the writer, the producer, probably acted in it. You did your own casting. You probably did your graphic work. I mean, it's just a lot, but it's fun. It's a part of the journey. All right, so any questions?
I have a comment more than I do a question. I was listening to LaMarcus as he spoke earlier about, being noticed and the things that catch people's attention and things like that. And I want to say, I'm so sorry. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yolanda Martin, and I am a local playwright, stage and film actress. And I just recently completed Joan's 6-week course in screenwriting. And it was a wonderful experience. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But I wanted to say that I am so happy to know that we have a lot more people who seem to be interested in the content that we are peddling. I have seen movies on the Tubi network, and I have sat there to the point of disgust because I was like, you wasted that money to put that foolery out there. Are you serious? And it reminded me of how Denzel Washington, as great an actor as he is, Glory, John Q, Crimson Tide, all of those movies that he did an outstanding job in, and not to mention when he portrayed Malcolm X. The one he gets an award for is the one where he is a thug rogue cop with a child on the outside or whatever. And that frustrates me because, like I said, he's so much greater than that. And Halle Berry, she did an outstanding job in losing Isaiah, but she gets an award when she's laying up with a white man and whatever, and just kind of slutting around. And I hate that, because that seems like the only time they want to acknowledge us and our greatness. So we have to get out here and we have to start making things that we can identify with and be proud to identify with. We have to stop letting them portray us in the light that they want the world to see us in. We have to do ourselves that honor of showing what we're made of and how we intend to keep making what you see of us more about us and what we believe ourselves to be than what they believe us to be.
Conscious writers.
I love it.
Absolutely. And in that lane, I mean, how do you follow that? I don't know. I have no idea, but very powerful words spoken, and I think that's so true. And I think that's what Renee and Gabriella have aimed to do with their projects, is to tell our stories not from a perspective of violence,
Yes.
but from a perspective of humanity.
Yes.
Because the world already sees us as a threat in general, right? And we need to change that narrative. And if you think about the things that our grandparents and great-grandparents had to go through in generations before, those things did not change until we started to show them on a national and world platform. You know, the hangings and the lynchings and the dogs being let loose and the water hose. Again, the power of the camera changes things in this world, because if you see it, you can believe it, right? What you see, it creates a reaction. You know, I'd always tell filmmakers and actors, I said, our job as artists are to invoke emotion. Whatever work we do, whether we make someone sad, upset, you know, love, whatever it is, they should feel something when they walk out of, you know, seeing our projects on television, streaming, movie theaters, schools, wherever they're watching plays. They should walk out feeling something. And if they walk out feeling nothing, then we have failed as artists, because our job is to evoke emotion that will hopefully lead to change. And so I think that's what these two lovely women have done, and all the other women, a part of Brilliant Women in Film, do on a daily basis, by doing these type of events and having platforms for those stories to be told. And so again, I'm honored that you all allowed me in the room. You know, as a man, in this industry, and you know, I support Brilliant Women in Film. I support these amazing filmmakers. You know, and I would love the opportunity to work with Joan and the filmmakers to invest in projects like these, to put them, to get them into be feature films, to get them distributed. And so that's something that I would love to do. And Joan has my information to share with people, but just to invest in these projects, to see if we can get them on a bigger scale, because I believe, Gabriella, your short film could be a TV show. It could be a movie, it could be a multi-series of movies. Renee, your documentary film, my God, 21 minutes. There's so much more to be told. There's so much more to be told beyond that 21 minutes. And not only that, but everything else that you have inside of you. So again, thank you, ladies, for sharing your gifts with us, with the world, so that we may eat it and hopefully do something with it when we leave this group, and we just not put the words out there, but we put the actions out there. So with that said, thank you for having me, Joan. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Joan, the floor is yours.
Okay, it's time to wrap up. Just want to give you a few more details. Thank you, everybody, for being LaMarcus. Thank you so much, as always. This is not the first time you've hosted for BWIF, But thank you for everybody being here. And I definitely want to mention Paula Cobb. She is one of the honorable mentions as well, called The Case. She's dealing with women's rights in the workplace, toxic workplace. So that's another. So we definitely want to make sure we give a shout out to her. So we'll be meeting at 4:45 on Sunday, April 24 at Studio Movie Grill in Marietta, Georgia. So we want to see you guys out there. I think everyone is going to be there. We still have tickets available. So if your friends want to come on tomorrow, we'll be running a special $10. That's it for the tickets because they're normally $20. So make sure they go to Film Freeway, or they can go to Brilliant Women in Film Festival.info. And I'll put that in the caption when I post this video. So we look forward to seeing everybody, and we thank God that there are so many wonderful movies that we get to premiere this year. This is our 3rd annual festival, and we judge. I'm not a judge, but the judges, we judge based on the message first. That's the first and foremost, the message, because we want to make sure that we're putting out content that matters. And so thank you guys. If anybody don't have it, thank you, Tony, for joining us down there. So if anybody don't have any questions, we can go ahead and close out the night. No questions, anyone? No? Okay, guys, thank you guys for joining us. And if you can, I can only tag you if I'm your friend. So if you look up Joan Montreal and accept me as your friend, then I can, then the video can go to you because I can tag you. So Joan Montreal, or you can go to Brilliant Women in Film Festival Facebook. All right, guys, have a nice night. We can't wait until the film festival, and we enjoyed every minute of it. Bye-bye, guys, and be blessed. Take care of yourself until later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye, guys.